All right, guys, moving down the way, we're jumping into the consistency dashboard. Quick note on consistency, it is the number one thing. If you want to see any sort of improvement, as we all do in our runs, our walks, our hikes, you got to first be consistent. Without any sort of consistency, it would be unrealistic for us to expect any sort of improvement. So the number one thing that you got to focus on first is being consistent, and you got to do it for a long enough period of time, right? So think 90 days. That is what we're focused on. Can we be consistent for 90 days? And maybe we think we're being consistent, but when we actually go back and look at some of these dashboards, we're not being as consistent as we thought we were. So we're going to go through all of these different things, the different filters, what it gives you access to, and then how to evaluate your consistency and whether you should be expecting improvement on those different things. So looking right here, we've got all of those different filters that allow you to customize what you're actually looking at. We did go over these in a previous dashboard, but just make sure that you're comparing apples to apples right there. If you want to see runs only, make sure you're looking at only runs. If you want to see runs and walks or walks only, make sure you adjust the filters accordingly so you can see those. Now, right here, you've got some familiar things as well. You got some just basic overview of those numbers. These are actually really cool for evaluating your consistency and really dialing in what you're looking at on these dashboards. Right now, nothing is filtered out. So you've got quarter 1, 2, 3. You've got all the entries in that quarter. So these are 90-day chunks. You've got your total miles completed, total minutes, the max distance that you completed in that quarter, the average distance in that quarter, and then the average pace of all of the things that you're looking at. Again, you can change this to show you the information that you want by using these different filters right here. So again, if you want to look at run only, that pace is probably going to look different if you filter out your walks, your trail runs, your runs on the beach, your walks on the beach, all of those different types of things. So keep all of that in mind when you're looking at this. Are you looking at the information that you actually want to look at? So make sure you're doing that. Moving down the board, we're going to come back up. I just want to give you a high-level overview of what this looks like first, and then we'll move back up. But you've got January, February, March. You've got every single one of the months that we've already knocked out in 2022. You can see the different weekdays, so you can expose, hey, maybe I'm doing really good on Mondays, but Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays I'm just not getting anything done. Fridays are really good for me. Saturdays are really good, and maybe that's okay. Maybe 3 days a week works really well for you, and you super busy on these other days. That's cool, but at least you'll be able to tell where the majority of your time is being spent. Maybe you can pick up a little bit of time on one of those days. You can add a run in on Wednesdays. Be like, oh man, I can do better on Wednesdays, right? So you want to see that. You'll be able to see all of your miles, your minutes, your max distance, your average distance, all of those types of things. Didn't put pace on that one. Didn't think that was super important to see the different pace on the days. But then moving down through the weeks, right? Now, maybe you want to do 3 runs, walks, entries of some sort each and every week. So we've got the week numbers right here, okay? You've got total miles, you got total minutes, and you can set your goals week in and week out using this section right here. Really cool feature. We're going to get into more of that as we dialed in some of those filters on that one. But it's got every single one of the weeks that we've gone through so far or that you've gone through once you dial those in. So let's go back up here. And we'll narrow it down to look just at mine so we can get some good examples on where I can make some improvements, what I can do differently on that one. So we've got all 3 quarters dialed in right here. I can see in quarter number 1, I had 50 entries, 30 in quarter number 2, 30 in quarter number 3. The total miles completed, I've dialed back my miles, my running consistently this year. Total minutes, max distance, again, similar theme right here, just kind of dialing back the runs, focusing on some other stuff. Average distance right here declining. So if you want to improve, you would just look for the opposite right there. So you want to be a little bit more consistent. You want to see some improvement on your average distances. You want to get that up on that one. You can see the different months right here as well. January, I had 13 entries, 17 in February, and peaked it out at 20 in March. Same thing with the miles right here, 62 in January, 83 in February, 97 in March. Some really cool information there. What was my max distance in each one of those months? My average distance, looking right here. Now, this is pretty cool. In this month of April, my average distance was 5.18, and over all of those, it was an 8.6 pace. Now, one thing that you'll notice I want to draw your attention to, that these are in decimal minutes right here. Data Studio does not allow you to edit time formats almost at all very easily. You have to jump through a lot of hoops, and it wouldn't make a ton of sense. So keep in mind that these are decimal minutes. And so what that means is if this was an 8.5 average pace, that is an 8.5 minute mile. An 8.7 is almost 8 3/4 or 8 minutes and 45 seconds. Keep that in mind right here. So a 9:15 pace would be, or excuse me, a 9.25 would be a 9:15 pace on that one. 9 minutes and 15-second pace would look like 9.25 minutes right there. Okay, so keep that in mind as you're looking at this. Don't want to confuse you right there, but it's much easier to manipulate these decimal minute formats. So keep that in mind as you're going through these. Let's go down here, look at the different weekdays. On Tuesdays, I was absolutely crushing it. That is when I get a lot of my runs in. Nothing. Mondays is the lowest day right there. Okay, so most of this is pretty consistent. You're seeing 18, 14, 16. So a lot of consistency on that one. Mondays seem to be a day when I'm not doing as much running. Sundays is a big day as well. Yep, got miles reflect that exact same thing right there. You can see your average distance and your max distance on those. And this is the part where I think you can really start to dial in that consistency, right? So my goal was to do 10 miles each week, right? So 10 miles a week, at least 10 miles a week, right? I think that's a really good goal. If you can get to 10 miles per week consistently, you're going to see some really good improvements, and then slowly improving your pace over time. But really, that 10-mile mark is a great place to be. That's 40 miles a month, but you can see week in and week out just consistently getting above that 10-mile mark right here. As we get later in the year, it does start to drop off just a little bit right there. Not as consistent, but I don't expect to see as much improvement right there. I've been focusing on other things, so my expectations for improvement in this area is not as high, right? I would expect to see it more so when I was being consistent on those. So that is the big overview on those. Make sure that you're diving into this information and taking it all in. If you do have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. I can absolutely help you out on those. But you guys can use these filters to change up the things that you're looking at too. So maybe you only want to see quarter number one. It was a great quarter. You can look at just that information, see how you did. Maybe that was a great quarter and quarter number two wasn't, and you can see what you did differently in quarter one and quarter two. You'll see a lot of that information right here, but you can also change it. Okay, so let's say on, looks like Tuesdays, I was getting more runs in there as well. Fridays, same thing, 11. Sundays, still a big one for me. So that was pretty consistent, but maybe you can expose some of those things that you can do better or that you did better in the past and you want to get back to those things. You can change the month, you can change the day of the week. You can also look at different week numbers right there. So just giving you a ton of opportunities and options to customize the information that you're looking at. Hopefully all of that makes sense. And when you're done, if you just want to start over, start from scratch, you get to any point in time where you're like, oh, I don't know how many filters I've got all set up, just hit the reset button. It all goes back to zero and you can start from scratch right there. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope that was super helpful.